Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, man. I dreaded this moment right here, all the way driving home from Eufaula, Alabama, having to go over the recap of the Redcrest 2021. Man, I made some mistakes that hard to swallow, hard to live with, really bother me. Wasn't meant to be. That's all I got to say about it. I'm going to recap it right here. I'm going to bring it to you guys, and still hard to swallow to this day.
From the top of the mountain, yeah, we fought our way up to the top of the mountain. Yeah, we fought our way up to the top of the mountain. Yeah, we never coming down from the top of the mountain.
So we get to Redcrest, man, and I'm excited. You know, we only have one day of practice just to tell you what all happened here. You know, we originally were slated for Grand. COVID hit, the big expo got canceled. We moved it to Palestine. The ice storm of the century, the snowstorm, the lake was froze over. Those people had no electricity, no water. We couldn't go to Palestine as bad as I wanted to. So last minute, they move it to Eufaula, Alabama, back it up a day to let people get there, to deal with the weather. I know for me personally, it was pretty dicey driving there through Mississippi. I drove on lots of ice-packed roads, snow-covered roads, traffic jams, cars in the side of the highway. Bad deal. But I made it. We get one day of practice, and that's all we get. You can't do a lot in one day of practice on a 45,000 acre lake, but I tried. I loaded that nitro up with 66 gallons of gas, and I basically burned every ounce of it. And what I learned in that practice was I went from way up almost to Columbus to the dam in that one day of practice. And you outside looking in, you're thinking, man, what in the heck? I was just trying to look at watercolor, look at water conditions, what was going on. And I learned that the river was clean and pretty and looked really good, and I felt like stable. And the lower end, it looked as good as it always does. But I didn't get down to that lower end till late in the day. I had a few bites up the river, and I got down to that lower end late in the day, and I had like 3 bites with my hooks covered up. And in the back of my mind, I thought, man, them did not feel like big fish. They just felt a little weird, but my hooks are covered. You got to realize. So that's what I did. And I got down there that morning, and man, the first one I catch is a spotted bass, and it's not a keeper. And I had like 2 or 3 other bites, and they just don't get it. And I'm like, and it kind of started to hurt a little bit. It kind of creeped, the doubt creeped in my head a little bit. I finally catch a keeper once the cameraman gets out of my boat. And I had changed over from that vibrating jig to slow rolling that spinner bait. But man, I caught him on that trailer hook. I mean, just barely got him. And I go a little bit further, and I catch a couple more short ones, and then I catch another keeper on that trailer hook. I mean, just barely get them. And then I go to the very end of the day, and man, I catch one more on the last 10 minutes to give me 3 fish to end my day one on what I thought was the best stretch of docks down there. It's where I caught all my fish the year before. That's where everybody else caught all those fish. And it just was one of those days that it was okay. I thought we were there 2 weeks later. I thought, man, they ought to be 2 weeks further along. We got a full moon coming. In reality, that cold spell had really knocked those fish back. I think probably a bunch of fish were up, pulled them back, regressed them. The other biggest difference, and this is something that us as anglers, you and me, should never, ever overlook. When we were there the year before, they had 60,000 cubic feet a second going through that lake. This time we had 25 to 30,000 cubic feet. That's That's being on the moon or being on Earth. A major, major, major difference. And I think that's why those main lake docks didn't fire. I think with that much current going down through the lake, it pushes those fish up on those flats, pushes them in behind those dock poles, gives them something to hide on, makes them feed. We didn't have that kind of current. You know, the water was a little bit lower. That was the biggest difference in the 2 years. Water temperature was, you know, hit or miss the same, up and down, but I think the current was the biggest thing that, looking back on this event, that was the biggest change from the 2 previous events. So I regroup at the end of the first day, and I'm like, okay, Edwin, I'm in this. I'm way ahead of what I did last year here after the first day. I may be 26th, 30th place out of 40, which is really bad in the standings, but I didn't need much. I think 10 pounds was the cut. So I take that nitro and I run way up that river. And man, I get up there and I fish through a couple stretches where I had some bites, and I'm fishing, and you know, I still feeling really good about my day. And I'd caught them up there, you know, the few bites I had, the 3 or 4 bites I had in practice up there, you know, 2 days ago or the day before, I caught on a vibrating jig. And I went back this one stretch. I mean, there's still some current up there, and I turned around and I started flipping it. And man, I caught a really good one, like a 3-something pounder. And it made me feel a lot better. Just getting that first bite within the first hour of the day was a game changer for me. You know, it was a little bit deeper bank right here, a little steeper bank. And you know, it told me to slow down, Ed. When these fish are cold, they're not reacting. It's early in the morning. And that bite right there really set the tone for me for the week. You know, I think it's coming. You'll notice on this fish catch, it's on a point. And that's how those bites were when I was up there in practice. Just right on those little points, you know, just a prime deal. One, the bottom's harder on that point because of the current going by. 2, it's an ambush point. They were not back in the cuts. They were on the points, and it's exactly where I had the bites up there when I was up there in practice. This is a second pitch basically to the same area, and just slow. I mean, just notice how slow all that is, and a super light bite. I just can't tell you how light of a bite that is. I never felt the bite. That's how cold those fish were.
It just makes me smile.
I said it makes me smile. It did, just to catch one when I thought I should, fairly early in the morning. 3-9.
And we got our day started right there.
So all morning long, I had been trying to flip out on stuff out off the bank. In my mind, I felt like those fish would be out a little further. And then I get this bite right here, and it is up on the bank. I mean, in no water at all. And I'm like, man, I'm making it too complicated. I need to just go fish what I can see in front of me. It's like another nice one. And I mean, by this time, this fish right here, my confidence was like already high getting that first bite. Now it's way up here. You see me, I look right over to see exactly where it came from, the sunny side of a creek. And now, knowing what I know after being there all that time, that fish was up there like either it was spawning before the cold front or it was fixing to spawn. It was in a spawning location. Make it to the first break. Man, I take the time, I eat me a built energy bar right there. I retie everything, try to drink some water, you know, just analyze a few bites that I've had. And I'm thinking, man, things are gonna be good. Take some clothes off, put some rods up. You can see right there as we're fast forwarding through this. Man, I'm ready to go. I am like fired up, ready to go, and I catch one immediately. I want you guys to notice this. Whenever I try to power pole down at those breaks, I try to power pole down at a spot that I think I can catch a fish immediately when I get up. That way I feel like that fish has got accustomed. You know, when you go sight fishing, and this is year round, but when you go sight fishing, a lot of the times when you're sight fishing, you're taming that fish for the first 15 or 20 minutes. Well, I feel like by power poling down on that lay down that's sitting there, I'm taming that fish that's up there to the presence of my boat. You know, the noise that boat's making, the noise I'm making, you know, and after 15 minutes of my break, that fish is tamed to my presence, you know. Just, it's like deer hunting, man. The longer you're in that deer stand and them deer smell you, and you know, I mean, there's a time when they get a little bit used to you. And I feel that way with those fish too. And like right there's a prime example. I caught one immediately after flipping up there that I'd been sitting there for 15 minutes, which I think is kind of cool. So just to fast forward a little bit, man, I go through this day and man, I catch them. I catch what I need to make the next round. I feel I jump all the way up to like 8th or 9th place at one time. And then I start looking, I pull off of them. You know, I've got the weight, you know, in my mind, I thought 21 pounds is gonna make the cut. It ended up making the cut. I had like 26 or 27. And man, I look, after I leave this creek, I go practicing and I catch a couple more, I lose a big one. And you know, I feel really good about my chances. I'm trying to find more water to expand on. That's what you do anytime you're bass fishing, no matter what format you're in. When you catch the weight you've got, you always want to try to find more fish or more patterns or more things to deal with. So, you know, at this point, I felt really good about where I was at, my position to make the next round, to expand on it and do all I can to learn all I can about these fish, because they are changing drastically. You got to realize water was 49 degrees, 51 degrees early in the week up there. You know, today, at this day, it ends up being 66, 67 maybe by the end of this day. So it's a big 20-degree change. Then we get to day 3. So I make it to day 3, and how the format works. I had a day off, 10 guys went out and fished. 20 guys out of the 40 made it. 10 went and fished Wednesday, and then my day, Thursday, 10 go and fish. I got to beat 5 guys to make the championship round. The day before, 5th place, 4th place was 10 pounds. They struggled to catch them. I mean, it was a really rough day on those guys. So, you know, I'm going out today. I feel really, really confident with the area that I found, you know, in my previous round, you know, catching the weight I caught. I felt super, super confident with, you know, everything that I found. One thing I noticed about this event, those guys fishing offshore, they had a super good, strong morning bite. And in my mind, all I had to do was survive that bite, because after that first 2 hour of good fish catching that they had, my bite was going to get better the rest of the day. You know, when you go to an event, you always want to put yourself in front of the fish. And what I mean by that is, you know, it's the time of the year they're going to spawn. Full moon is 1 day away, 2 days away. I want to be where they're going. In my mind, those guys deep fishing, yeah, they get a bite early in the morning. I think then those fish are swimming to the bank, and maybe some more come in the next day. But when I go to an event, I think, what direction are those fish headed? Are they headed off the bank back out offshore? Are they headed up to the shore? Where are they headed? And I felt like I was fishing in front of the fish. I felt like every day more and more fish were coming to me. And I think that's an important decision to make. And also in the back of my mind, you got to realize during this week, there's another major tournament, 150 boat solo tournament of a national trail. $600 entry fee, $20,000 first place. So it's not like a $150 entry fee and a guy could win $1,000. It's a big tournament. Lots of people there. They practiced all week. They're there every day on the water with us. Great people, all very cordial. No complaints at all, never would. But you know, with the Major League Fishing and the 10 cameras that they put on the water every day covering our sport, those guys are able to watch all that. We can't watch that stuff. So in my mind, those guys, you know, having that morning bite, they could see that, those brush piles, that offshore bite that I felt like was taking place. They were going to struggle as the week went on, especially come the championship day. man, they're gonna be fighting for some of that stuff because we don't start fishing till 8 and they can start fishing at daylight. And the combination of, I feel like fish moving to the bank with the full moon, the warming water, and that big tournament, I felt like I was set up perfectly where I was at. You know, it didn't, you know, if there was other boats in that area, it's still fishing down the bank. You know, fish are replenishing, fish are coming up to spawn. Yeah, there's lots of good fishermen out there, but I can flip a little slower, or I can flip a little faster, whatever I need to do to outfish the guy that I'm behind. So I felt really, really good going into my day. And then here I catch a really nice one, and it was like, bam, that light bulb went off. And you gotta forgive me a little bit, because on camera here, I don't wanna say a lot about it, because this is still the day before that big national tournament starts. I'm trying not to give too much away, because I feel like if those guys are watching, I don't want to say too much, because there's going to be a bunch of them up here the next day. But that fish was in that deep of water on a point. And when I say a point, it's a very, very subtle point. But what's different about that point is the ground's harder on that point than it is on the sides. Thus, that's a perfect spot for that bass to spawn. And it's like, that's when that light bulb really was reassured that those fish are fixing to spawn. And it just gets reassured as each hour goes on. Yeah, I just, man, that fish throttled that thing too. Super excited. You know, I go back offshore here. I try to, there's a bunch of offshore stumps. I just wanted to mark each one of them for the next day. A bunch of stuff you couldn't see that I could see with my active target that I thought, man, these fish could set up and spawn on these two. So I kind of went through them, I marked them all, and you know, I'm feeling good because I know I got a whole bunch more of this creek to fish. I'm feeling really, really good about my chances. I get back here to a log that I caught one on the day before. I catch another one on the exact same log, so that tells me, man, they're replenishing. It's just, things are feeling really, really good. So the math starts to happen in my head, you know, 10 pounds, you know, that's all it took the day before, you know, that's, you know, they've been catching, you know, not even 5 pounds a period, you know, so I'm just like, man, I really think I got it made. And I start experimenting with some more baits. I pick up a buzz bait. And I don't throw it 3 times. I skip it up underneath a laydown and one annihilates it and it comes off and it's a good one. And then I go a little bit further and I catch another one like 5 casts later. And man, I turn around and I smile and I was like, they're gonna bite the buzz bait.
They'll hit a buzz bait.
But I put it down. I don't want to show everybody watching that they'll bite a buzzbait because I know I'm going to have people in here the next day. So I put that rod up and I'm sitting in the back of my mind. So buzzbait and a frog the next day is going to kill them, you know, because these fish are setting up to spawn. And I just go back to flipping. I want to catch a couple more to feel comfortable about my chances. And I leave that lake or that creek and I go to another creek and things starting to tighten up a little bit. That score tracker's starting to go off. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, do I run back over to that other creek where I'd been catching them? You know, I still had some water in there I could fish. And then I get a few bites in here. I don't catch them, but I get a few bites. And then I get in a stretch in this creek that it's so clear, I see them. And I see them. And like, there's one right there. And I go 10 feet and there's one right there. Oh, that's a 3.5, 4 pounder. And I go 10 feet, there's a 3.5, 4 pounder. I back off, do a circle, I sight fish them. Well, the water's dropping. And it's dropped probably that much. And the water's clear and it is dead calm, dead calm. I throw that wacky worm and we're down to about the last hour of this tournament. And they are lined up like cordwood on that bank, spawning, getting ready to spawn. Now, I don't want to say spawning, because if they were spawning, I'd have caught them. They didn't have anything to protect yet. You know, a bass, he's got up there and he's made this area. This is going to be his home. Now he's waiting on his girlfriend. I didn't ever see any pairs, but he's waiting on his girlfriend, and she was going to come that night. The next day was going to be epic. She was going to come that night, and they don't have a spot to protect yet. So the wacky worm and getting back off of them, because there's a lot of them that I saw them way before they ever saw me, and I could skip that wacky worm up there, and it's just like they just, whoosh, they were just, one, they were in water that deep. Two, they just moved up there. Three, the water was falling a little bit. They just weren't ready to bite yet. So how, in my mind, do I go leave and go off somewhere else when, man, I've got the fish right here to do really, really well in this tournament, and I don't know. So then I changed gears. I'm like, okay, so I can't get them, finessing them. I'm gonna make them react. It's like, you know, you go sucker punch somebody, they're gonna punch you back. I just pick up that vibrating jig and I start burning it over their heads. And I go through a stretch there in that next 50 to 100 yards and I can't land one of them. They bite the tail of it off. I hook them, they shark it. They're going nuts over that vibrating jig, and I cannot land one of them. I mean, I just needed one, and some of them were big ones. I mean, dadgum big ones. And, you know, I dug around in my tackle box right there. You can see it. I'm looking for, you know, you remember back to 2002, 2003, that same scenario happened at Lake Eufaula, and I started throwing a little shallow diving crankbait. I was looking for a little bitty wake bull just to finesse over them. Or if I had some floating worms in my boat, I could have caught those fish. I didn't have them in my boat. Should have taken the time, tied on a frog. I tried a buzzbait. It was way too calm, guys. The water was slick as this table, clear, that deep. It was a floating worm, a little bitty wake bull, a frog. Game would have been over. I'd have caught the fish I needed, the 3.5 pounder, to make the championship round. So long story short, I got way overconfident. I left my best stretch, my best creek, knowing I'd made it, but don't beat me up too bad, because I also knew in the back of my mind, to win this event, I needed one more creek. I needed one more spot that was as good as that first one. And I found that in that last hour. I found it. I mean, they were stacked up, just bam, 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 for 100 yards. And that was like, I could have found more of it. I mean, I ran out of time. I just didn't catch one of them. But imagine what it would have been like come championship day in there. One, I'd had a couple more baits in my arsenal. Two, I knew they were there. I knew what it took to finally get them to bite. The problem was, I didn't get one of them to bite on the day I needed to make that round. So 10 minutes to go, Michael Neal catches not one, but two to pass me. And I go from second place. I'm in second place with way more weight than I thought I needed, way more weight than what it took the day before. I had what I have? I had like 17, 18 pounds. I don't remember, guys. I don't want to remember. But I had a way more weight than it took the day before. And long story short, it wasn't enough. And in 100 years, I thought I was 100% right. It was not enough. And there's been a few major championship events that, without a shadow of a doubt, I thought I should have won. The Pittsburgh Classic. Lost it by 1 pound, 14 ounces. I had a 3-pound smallmouth come up, put its nose right on my topwater. Couldn't get that fish to bite. Lost like 2 other 2.5 pounders, and I caught one that day. This one here, and I had, well, the Hartwell Classic I really should have won. The Conroe Classic that Jordan won, I got really stubborn, locked up on an 8-pound fish. And I thought I needed 25 pounds. generally speaking, to win the events, it never takes as much as you think it takes. And this one, it took more than what I thought it was going to take to get into the championship round. And everything unfolded Friday like I thought it was going to unfold. Those offshore guys did not smoke them like they originally, everybody had already handed Brian Thrift the trophy, and poor guy, he struggled that day. They handed Ott Defoe the trophy, and the poor guy struggled that day. They had a lot of extra competition on them, on very specific spots that you can't protect, that if you only got 4 or 5 brush piles that you're going to catch fish off of, you can't let them rest. You can't, it's just nature of the business, and or the fish move to the bank. I had a pattern that fish were coming to me. There was lots of them. They were big ones. I just didn't get a chance to fish for them that final day, and man, did it hurt. It stinks so bad. But at the end of the day, this is what I'm gonna say. It wasn't meant to be. It's a. I put everything in God's hands, and it wasn't meant to be. If I was meant to win that tournament, I'd have caught another fish, and I didn't. So that's the one piece of peace that I can take away from the event. I won the Redcrest the year before, and there's 2 other tournaments that I thought I should have won in that backwater prior to Redcrest ever happening at the Mississippi River, and I didn't. And to this, till that Redcrest that I won, I couldn't figure out why I didn't win those events. I'd lose everything that I could possibly hook, and they were all big ones, but it was because God had a plan for me to win Redcrest. And, it wasn't my turn to win. And Dustin Connell, man, my hat's off to him. Great, great champion. Gave all the glory to God, and just very humble, and meant the world to him, and he was meant to win. And man, I'm super, super happy for you, bud. Super happy for your wife, you and Victoria. It's a big, big deal. It's a career-changing, awesome achievement, man. One that never ever be taken from you. And I'm happy for you. Man, my power stop breakdown of the gear. The first day I made that critical change from that vibrating jig to that spinnerbait. I could slow it down slower. A single Colorado spinnerbait, 1/2 ounce. You can just reel it slower and still keep it up in the water. That was a huge key, because I threw that vibrating jig all morning, and then when I picked up that spinnerbait, I immediately got a bite really quick. And that was a key for me, because I caught 3 fish that day. That was a big help to make it to the next round. I had to get that done to have confidence to go the next day to run however far it was up that river to that creek and fish that creek. Once I got up to that creek, that critter hog, that Berkeley critter hog, 4-inch in that blue sapphire, it was the ticket. I was throwing a 3/16 ounce weight, a 3/0 straight shank hook, 25-pound braided fluorocarbon Bass Pro brand, 7.6 heavy action rod, 8:3-to-1 gear ratio reel. That was my setup for that awesome day that I had to make the knockout round, to make my climb back up in the standings. We got to the knockout round. I wanted to show those fish something a little different, something that was a little more compact, a little better at getting in and out since they were so tight to that cover. I went to a jig, just a 1/2 ounce jig, Andy's Custom Bass jig, a power chunk trailer, and I did catch a couple on that critter hog. I ended up catching a couple on that vibrating jig. The jig, the critter hog, again, 25-pound fluorocarbon, that same rod, that 7.6 rod, that vibrating jig, I throw that on 20-pound fluorocarbon, a 7-foot, 1-inch medium heavy, a 6:8-to-1 gear ratio rod. That's what I caught all my fish on. The water temperature this week went from 49 to 69 degrees that final day, guys. If you take anything away from this video, it can go from wintertime fishing to on the beds spawning in 4 days. That's how long it took. And I saw them with my eyes, guys. It was clear enough. I could see them with my eyes up there. They were spawning the next day. They had their locations found. The males had set up. The females would have been there the next day. The full moon was happening. It happens that fast. I've seen that other times in my career. I've been at Table Rock one time. The third day of an event, I see them just swimming in by the hundreds, just fish swimming into the back of this pocket to spawn. It happens quick this time of the year, guys. That's why I say it's one of the best times of the year to be on the water, because it just happens quick. Fish are moving quickly. It happens quick. Don't ever forget that. That's one of the biggest things I want you to take away from this video, is how quick it can happen. So there it is, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. It was hard for me to go through it, but I know it wasn't meant to be. And I'm looking forward to going to Rayburn. That's going to be our next one. Starting the year out, 2021. Breaking these lakes down, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what I'm going to do, no matter how hard it is, because if I got through this one, I can get through any one of them. But I appreciate you guys following along. I appreciate so much the comments. You know, I enjoy mailing those tackle packs out. I enjoy getting the comments back when you guys get them. Those Thursday videos, those top 3 baits, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of hard to do. Like this last one in March was really hard to break it down to 3 baits, because things really start to open up. But I enjoy doing them, and I think you guys are enjoying them, because I'm getting so much feedback on them. So I appreciate you guys a bunch, your support, following along, hitting those like buttons, those subscribes, all that stuff. And man, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you think, because that was a hard one to swallow. But I appreciate you guys a bunch. Take care.